She was standing over the bloodstained note when the door creaked open. Maya had been in the mansion less than an hour, and already the house felt wrong quiet, like a church after midnight, too clean to cold, the kind of rich that can hide a smell. Maya wasn't hired to ask questions. She was hired to clean the east wing and help with breakfast for the twins, Eli and Noah, the boys everyone said couldn't see, the boys the city talked about, because their father Adam Reed was the man who could buy anything except a cure. She found a note, the way trouble usually finds the poor by accident, tucked under the edge of a thick rug in the twins' playroom. A room with locked cabinets, a baby grand piano, and black curtains that swallowed light. She knelt to pull the corner and a small white card slid free, not white anymore, a rusty smear cut across the center like a finger had dragged. Blood over a secret message for words in thin shaky letters. They can see you. Her breath snagged in her chest. She stared at the words, hearing her own pulse thump in her ears. The smear was real. The iron smell was real. Someone had bled on this. A prank maybe, or a sick joke. Then the piano behind her sang a single soft note, like a child testing a key. Turn slowly. Eli sat on the bench, his face angled toward the window, his gray eyes unfocused the way she had seen in videos of the boys. Noah stood beside him, hand on his brother's shoulder. Both wore the same blue sweaters, the same careful haircuts, the same quiet sadness, their heads tilted at the same angle as if listening to a sound no one else could hear. Who's there? Eli asked the air, his voice polite, the kind that makes rich people say what a sweet boy. Maya slipped the card into her apron and forced her voice steady. It's Maya. I'm new. I thought you might like music while we wait for breakfast. Noah's chin lifted. Will you open the curtains? He asked. Dad likes them closed, but the room feels like a box. Maya walked to the window and paused. The curtains were heavy velvet, but the rod had been screwed into the wall with fresh bright screws. Someone wanted these shut for real. She pulled them anyway. Light flooded in gold and clean. The twins flinched, then relaxed. Eli's fingers found the keys and touched a soft chord that sounded like rain after a drought. Behind Maya, the door creaked. She turned and faced Adam Reed in a dark suit, with a face that said, I do not bend. He wasn't handsome, but he was powerful, and in houses like this, that is the same thing. He looked at the open curtains, looked at Maya, then at the boy's eye, said, curtains, stay closed. He said they asked. Maya replied, and stopped herself from adding, they live here to power punishes truth. In homes like this, a jaw flexed. You're here to do as instructed. Breakfast in 10, and keep them calm. He glanced at the piano and his eyes softened for a fraction. Bring them to the table, and don't move things you don't understand. He left as fast as he had appeared. The room swallowed his footsteps like it was used to burying sounds. Maya exhaled. Noah's hand brushed the piano lid. Then, can you find my red car? He asked. It fell somewhere near the couch last week. Maya knelt by the couch. Her fingers slid into the gap and found nothing but dust. She reached deeper and felt a thin strip of fabric tape running under the frame. She tugged, and a small device came free, a flat black square, no larger than a coin, with a tiny red dot glowing at its center. Stomach dropped. Not a toy, a Kamarashi. Looked up at the twins, their faces calm. Eli pressed a minor chord that made the air ache, and Maya heard her own voice say, before she could stop it, why are there cameras in your playroom? Noah's sightless eyes turned toward her, as if he could see her hand holding the thing he swallowed. Dad says it keeps us safe. He whispered like someone might punish him for the words. The floorboard popped in the hallway. Footsteps paused at the door, then moved on. Maya slid the device back into the shadow where she'd found it, and stood that red car. I'll keep looking, she said, but her mind was racing. The note, the blood, the locked cabinets, the cameras, the curtains, sealed like a vault. The piano sounded. One clear, bright note. Eli's head tilted left, like he was following a light. No one ever opens the curtains. He murmured, you smell like rain. Is it raining? No, she said, but it will soon, I think. Downstairs a distant chime rang, the kind that calls people who obeyed. Maya offered her hand's palm. Up the steps are steep. She said, let me guide you. Eli stood first. Noah followed, their fingers curled into her wrists, warm, trusting, human weight. As they moved to the door, a slim rectangle of light cutting the dark, and something inside Maya settled into a shape she had not felt since childhood, a promise without words. Halfway into the hall, Noah whispered, careful, there's a bump, and his foot lifted early. His body swayed, then corrected like he knew where. The floor changed like he could see. Maya stopped cold, and the boys felt her freeze. Noah's hand tightened on her sleeve. What's wrong? He asked. Maya looked down at the step that rose a half-inch, a trick to trip the unwary. Her voice came out, soft, almost afraid. Nothing, she said, then lifted her eyes to the long hallway of closed doors and black mirrors. But I think I just saw something. I'm not supposed to see it. Air shifted, a shadow moved at the far end of the corridor, and a hidden camera above the door clicked alive as if woken from sleep. The dining room was wide enough to echo like a church, yet it felt colder than stone, the kind of cold that clings to wealth without warmth. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above the long oak table. Breakfast was already set, silver trays, steaming eggs, carved fruit pastries stacked like art, not food. Maya guided Eli and Noah to their seats at the far end. Adam Reed sat at the head, silent eyes fixed on a folder beside his plate. Maya poured juice, her hands steady, though her heart hadn't slowed since the hallway. Adam glanced at her apron, as though he could see the blood-stained card hidden deep in the pocket. His voice was casual but sharp, like glass under silk. Did the boys behave there? Played music, Maya said softly. They like the light. Adam's fork froze mid-air. He looked at the twins, then at Maya. Curtains stay closed, he repeated. The boys prefer routine. Sudden changes upset them. He didn't raise his voice, but the weight of it made the silverware rattle. I whispered, Dad, she opened them because we asked. It felt like the sun. The father's stare hardened until the boy lowered his head. Adam turned back to his folder. Conversation closed. Maya's throat tightened. She wanted to ask about the cameras, about the note, about the strange way Noah had stepped around that bump in the hallway, but questions in this house felt like locks meant never to be opened. Noah fumbled with his fork, the eggs sliding away. He sighed. I can't find the plate again. Maya reached quietly, guiding his hand. Her fingers brushed his skin. He flinched only for a second, then relaxed. Adam's eyes flicked up briefly, watching like a judge marking down evidence. The door opened. Mrs. Caldwell, the head housekeeper, glided in, gray hair pinned like armor. She set another tray down, her eyes brushing Maya cold, disapproving, as if sensing a trespass. She leaned close to Adam, whispering something. His expression tightened, but he gave only the faintest nod. Mrs. Caldwell's gaze slid to the twins, then back to Maya, as though to say, you don't belong. He had breakfasted in silence. Adam left with his folder, the housekeeper trailing like a shadow. The twins sat quietly until the door closed. Then Eli turned toward Maya. You smell scared, he said, voice low, like when the dog used to be sick. Maya forced a smile. I'm fine, just new hair. Noah's head tilted. But you saw it, didn't you? The camera by the couch. Her breath caught. How could he? No, his eyes stared forward, still blank, yet too focused, too sharp. He tapped the table twice. Eli echoed the same rhythm, their hands moving in silent code. Maya's skin prickled with the sense of being outside a secret. She leaned close, whispering, what are you not telling me? The boys said nothing, only their small fingers moved again, a pattern she couldn't read. The cutlery filling the gap. They stood suddenly, Eli brushing crumbs from his lap, Noah clutching his arm. We should go upstairs, Noah murmured. Dad doesn't like us late for lessons. Lessons? What kind of lessons? Maya followed as they climbed marble stairs to a locked door near the end of the hallway. Mrs. Caldwell appeared, key in hand, unlocking it with practiced speed. Inside was no classroom but a stark chamber, bright white walls, a row of screens, a table of wires and strange helmets shaped to fit a child's head. Two men in lab coats stood waiting. One smiled thinly, as if used to being feared. Good morning, boys. Strap in, please. His accent was clipped, his hands too eager. He looked at Maya sharply. You're dismissed. The twins froze. Noah whispered, can you stay? His small fingers curling into her apron. The man's smile vanished. No, she cannot. He reached for Noah gently but firmly. Maya's body reacted before thought. She stepped forward, blocking his hand. Her voice was low, steady. I was told to keep them calmer. Tense silence stretched until the man sighed. Turning to Mrs. Caldwell, she nodded curtly. Allow her to watch, just this once. Celia and Noah sat obedient in the chairs, helmets lowered over their heads, the wires glowing faint blue. Maya stood rigid at the wall as the men typed commands, screens flickering lines of symbols that looked like eyes, and staircases twisting over each other. The boys jerked faintly, their lips moving as if whispering prayers on. The nearest screen images flashed too fast to catch. A forest burning, a child at a window, eyes wide, a woman's hand dragging them back. Eli cried out, his body straining against the straps. Maya lurched forward, but the man raised a hand. Calm stimulation, he said. They must learn to focus. Noah's voice broke across the noise, soft but piercing. Stop it, please, stop it. His hands clenched, the straps, his eyes still blank but tears slipping down. Maya's chest burned, fury rising. This isn't a lesson, this is torture. The man typed something, the images stopped, the twins sagging weak, the helmets lifted. Noah's chest heaved. Eli wiped at tears that sightless eyes shouldn't have noticed then. As the men turned to log results, Eli's face tilted toward Maya, his lips barely moving. He mouthed two words, help. Maya's heart slammed. She nodded imperceptibly. Then a faint crack sounded at the door. A camera blinked red, alive, recording everything. The man's voice called sharply enough for today. Mrs. Caldwell, escort the maid out. They guided her from the room. Eli's whisper followed her like a ghost. Maya, Maya, we can see. Her legs faltered. She looked back wide-eyed, but the door slammed closed. Mrs. Caldwell's grip like iron on her arm. The housekeeper hissed low so the men wouldn't hear, leave before you end up like the last one. The last one, Maya whispered, but Mrs. Caldwell's lips thinned. She shoved her into the hall and locked the door behind her. The note in her apron seemed to burn against her ribs. They can see you, it had said, and now she knew exactly who had written it and exactly how much danger she was already in. Maya barely slept that night. The mansion was too still, too watchful, every corridor lined with silent cameras glowing red like eyes. She lay on the narrow bed in the maid's quarters, the card burning her memory. They can see you. She repeated it again and again, until dawn cracked gray across the curtains. By breakfast, she decided one thing. She couldn't leave, not yet, not while Eli and Noah whispered help. Through their tears she moved through the kitchen, pretending calm, pouring coffee while Mrs. Caldwell directed the staff in clipped orders. The housekeeper's eyes never strayed long, but Maya felt them circling, always measuring, always warning. The boys entered, led by Adam in his dark suit, both in identical gray sweaters, their small hands folded neat. Eli smiled faintly at the sound of the dishes clinking. Noah's lips pressed thin, hiding something deeper. Adam sat at the head, his voice cutting through silence. I'll be in the city today. Watch them carefully. Caldwell, no disruptions yet. Sir. Mrs. Caldwell replied smoothly, her glance slicing toward Maya, as if daring her to try win. Adam left the house, seemed to breathe lighter but not safer. The boys ate quickly, their heads tilting every so often, as if listening to something no one else could hear. Halfway through, Eli's hand brushed Maya's sleeve, his whisper almost a faint. The red car under the couch, check again tonight. Her chest tightened. She nodded subtly, not trusting words. With the cameras above, after breakfast lessons began again. The locked door, the glowing helmets. Maya stayed near this time, silent hands clenched as the men worked. But something different happened. The images flashing across the screens were slower, clearer. One froze on the shape of a figure, standing by a lake, tall shadow with burning eyes. Alice, face twisted, he muttered under breath, Dad, 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 over and over, until his voice cracked. The man typing quickly, frowning at just parameters, he said. His partner nodded. Mrs. Caldwell's stare hardened on Maya, as if blaming her for the boy's pain. When the session ended, Eli's body slumped. Noah pulled at his straps, whispering, we'll tell her, please, we have to. Mrs. Caldwell barked, enough, escort them out. The boys sagged against Maya as she guided them down the hall, away from the locked door. Once safe in their playroom, Noah leaned close, his breath shaky. He thinks we can't see, but we can. Shadows, light faces. We hide it because if he knows, he'll take us. Our Maya's heart pounded. She crouched in front of them, her voice low. Who wrote the note? Tilly's lips trembled. He did. His chin flicked toward the hallway. The other maid. Maya's skin prickled. The last one. Mrs. Caldwell had warned about what happened to her. The twins said nothing, only silence, their small fingers twisting together. Fear, more telling than words. Later that night, when the house hushed under velvet dark, Maya slipped back to the playroom, the curtains drawn tight. She knelt by the couch, reaching deep. Her fingers brushed fabric, something hard. She tugged free, not the toy car, but a journal, small leather cover, stained dark, the pages crowded with shaky writing. She opened to the first line. If you're reading this, they already know her. Pulse hammered. She flipped through pages filled with frantic notes, descriptions of the boys' lessons, images they described, flames, forests, strangers with cold eyes. She reached the last page, the writing smeared in blood. The twins are not blind, they're being trained to see what no one else can. The floor creaked behind her. She spun. Mrs. Caldwell stood in the doorway, shadows stretched along her face, pale fury in the dim light. Put that back, she hissed. Maya's hands shook, journal clutched to her chest. Why are you doing this to them? They're children. The housekeeper stepped closer, her voice cracked low. You think I chose this? You think I don't see their faces at night? Put it back before he knows you touched it. Who he?" Maya whispered, but Mrs. eyes flicked upward to the black camera in the corner, red light blinking alive, and she fell silent, pressing her lips tight. She turned sharply, leaving without another word. Maya's body trembled. She slid the journal under her apron, hearing her own pulse thundering upstairs. A door slammed, the sound heavy final. The house seemed to shudder. The twins' voices floated faint through the walls. A melody hummed low, trembling like prayer. Maya clutched the journal to her chest, and knew then this was no job, no accident. She had walked into a cage, and inside were two boys hiding a truth so dangerous it could destroy them all. And in that moment, for the first time, she realized she was willing to burn the whole mansion down to set them free. The mansion had a rhythm like a heartbeat, too controlled to steady. Every creak in the walls felt timed. Maya kept the journal hidden beneath her thin mattress, each word inside clawing at her thoughts. The twins are not blind, they're being trained to see what no one else can. She wanted to run, she wanted to leave, but when she looked at Eli and Noah, their small hands clutching her apron, she knew she couldn't. Thought. Night. Adam returned later than usual, the smell of rain on his suit, his shoes clicking sharp against marble. He called the staff to the grand hall, his voice heavy with command. "Tomorrow evening, a gathering here. I expect everything flawless." His gaze paused on Maya, longer than it should. "She will attend to the twins," he added, as if daring her to file. The staff dispersed like shadows. Mrs. Caldwell stopped beside Maya, her whisper cold as stone. "Watch your steps, girl. Some storms drown without warning." The next day stretched, thin preparations buzzing through the house, gold, silver, crystal polished, until every surface blazed. Candles set in endless rows. By evening the guests arrived, black cars sliding through the gates, powerful faces stepping into the glow. Adam greeted each with perfect charm: senators, bankers, generals, people who owned cities with a pen stroke. Maya kept close to the twins, guiding them through the sea of voices, laughter sharp like knives. They sat quietly, hands folded, their sightless eyes drifting across the room, but Maya felt it each time. Their gaze landed too precisely on a guest, as though they saw more than they should. Halfway through the evening, one guest, a tall man with silver hair, bent low to greet Noah, his voice smooth, familiar to power. "And how are you, young man?" Noah lips trembled. He whispered, almost soundless, "You were at the fire." The man froze, his smile stiff, then glanced quickly at Adam, who was watching from across the room. Adam's eyes narrowed, a silent exchange sparking between them. The guest patted Noah's shoulder and moved away, but the air had shifted suddenly. The party was no longer laughter, it was smoke hiding flames. Later, as music swelled, Adam drew the boys aside into a side chamber. Maya followed unseen, pressing herself against the wall. She heard his voice, sharp, controlled. "Never speak like that again, you understand?" Never. Eli's reply was faint, but steady. "We can't help what we see," Adam's breath hissed. "You see, because I allow it. Don't forget who feeds you, who protects you. Without me, you are nothing. Do you understand?" Maya's nails dug into her palms, rage shaking through her. But then, Noah's voice, soft, almost broken. "Dad, what happened to her?" The last maid. The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. Adam's tone dropped low. "She forgot her place. She thought she could save you. She was wrong." Maya's stomach turned cold. She clutched the journal tighter against her ribs. The blood on its pages no longer distant. It was hers too. If she slipped one wrong step, the door creaked. She stepped back as Adam strode out, his eyes sweeping the hall, his face unreadable. The twins followed, their shoulders hunched, yet when Eli passed, his lips barely moved, whispering toward Maya, hidden in shadow. Tonight, her chest clenched. Tonight, what escape cry for help or something darker, she didn't know. But when midnight fell, the house asleep under heavy silence, she rose, slipping barefoot to the twins' room. They were waiting, Noah clutching a small bag, Eli holding a folded paper. "We can't stay," he whispered. "He'll find out. We can see everything. He'll use us for them." Maya asked, but Eli only shook his head, unfolding the paper. Not words, but sketches drawn in frantic lines. A fire, a woman screaming, men in black suits standing in circles, symbols carved into walls, things children should never know. Maya's heart raced. "This is what he trains you for, yes?" Noah breathed. "He says, we are windows to what's coming." A sound split the air downstairs. A door slammed, footsteps, heavy voices, low, urgent. Adam was not alone anymore. Maya shoved the sketches into her apron, grabbed the boys' hands. "We have to go now." They hurried through the servants' corridor, dark and narrow, hearts pounding behind them, voices Rose sharp orders echoing Adam's voice clear. Find them, don't let them out. The twins clung to Maya, their breath ragged. They can see as Noah gasped. They always see as Maya pulled them into the kitchen toward the back door, but the moment she touched the handle, a beam of light flared, a red dot blinking above the frame cameras. Alive alarms slicing through silence, footsteps pounding closer. The boys froze, terror locking them in place. Maya's voice cracked. Run with me, trust me. They bolted into the night air, the mansion roaring awake behind them, guards pouring into the courtyard. Adam's voice carried through the chaos. Don't hurt them, bring them back alive. Rain lashed down, soaking them as they ran across the gravel. Eli stumbled, but Maya yanked him up, her lungs burning, her mind racing. They would never get far. Not without help, not without somewhere safe. And then headlights split the dark. A black car screeched to a stop, blocking their path. The back door swung open, a woman's voice urgent. Get in. No. Maya's eyes widened. She recognized the face from the journal, the woman in the last smeared entry, the maid who was supposed to be gone. But she wasn't gone at all. She was alive, and she was here to finish what she had started. The rain hammered the gravel like fists, the twins frozen in place, their small fingers gripping Maya's hands. The black car's door still open, the woman leaning out, her face pale under the lightning, her voice sharp with urgency. Get in now, before he reaches you. Maya's chest heaved, every part of her screaming to run the other way, but something in the woman's eyes stopped her pain, and fire locked together the eyes of someone who had survived too much. She shoved the boys into the back seat, climbing in after them. The door slammed and the car screeched forward, gravel spraying behind. Through the blur of the window, Maya saw Adam bursting from the mansion guards, spilling at his side, his face no longer calm, polished man of wealth, but raw fury, his mouth shaping words she couldn't hear but understood. We'll find you inside the car. Silence pressed heavy except for the twins' ragged breaths. Maya looked at the woman clutching the wheel. You're supposed to be dead. Her jaw tightened. They wanted you to believe that. Name's Ruth. I worked here before. You did. Thought I could save them. Thought I could hide what they really are. Adam caught me, beat me, left me for dead outside the estate, but I crawled away. I've been waiting, watching for a chance to come back. Maya's stomach knotted. She pulled the journal from her apron, tossing it into Ruth's lap. The last maid's words were yours. Ruth nodded, eyes wet with anger. He's training them because they're different, not blind. They see things other people can't, visions of what's coming. He calls it the gift. I call it a curse, but he wants to sell it, use it. The powerful men you saw at the party, they fund him. They want prophecy in their pockets. The twins sat huddled, Eli's voice small but steady. We dream things before they happen. We see firewall people who don't know we exist. He tells us it's duty, but it hurts, it burns, Noah added. His men make us watch terrible things over and over till we can say what comes next. Maya's hands shook. She touched their shoulders. No one's going to hurt you again, not while I'm breathing. Ruth's eyes flicked at her in the mirror. Brave words, but he'll come harder now. Adam doesn't lose, not when the boys are worth more than any fortune he's made. The car roared onto an empty road, dark trees swallowing the headlights. Then suddenly another pair of beams flared ahead, a second car swerving into their lane. Ruth cursed. Spinning the wheel, the twins screamed. Tires screeched, metal clipped metal. The world lurched before Ruth regained control, slamming the car down a dirt path, branches clawing the side styre on us. Ruth spat. Maya, look under the seat, there's a bag. Maya reached, pulling out a small pistol, her hands trembling. Ruth barked, don't freeze. If they catch us, we all die. The twins clung tighter, Eli whispering, Maya, don't shoot, please don't. Noah's tears streamed. He said, if we use violence we lose ourselves behind them. The black car followed to close its lights, blinding. Ruth swerved hard through the trees. The road ended at an abandoned barn, its roof broken ribs against the sky. Ruth skidded to a stop, dragging them all inside the old wood, creaking, the smell of mold and dust thick. We can't run forever, Ruth said, chest heaving. We have to show the truth, make him lose his power. Maya stared. What truth? Eli lifted his head, eyes glimmering with something, not blindness, but light. He's afraid of us, not because we're weak, but because we see him for what he is. The barn doors rattled, the enemy car screeched outside, voices shouting, Adam's voice booming. Bring them to me unharmed. The maid, she knows too much. Ruth grabbed Maya's arm. We have one chance. Either you trust what they can do, or we all fall. Adam doesn't want them dead because he can't control what he can't own. The boys stood together, holding hands, their faces pale but determined. Eli whispered, "We'll show him." Noah nodded. "We'll make him seethe." Doors burst open, men pouring in flashlights, slicing the dark. Adam behind them, his face a mask of thunder. He stepped forward, spreading his arms like a preacher. "Give them to me. Maya, you have no idea what you're meddling with. They belong to me." Maya stood in front of the twins' body, shaking voice raw. "They belong to no one, not even you." Adam's laugh was low, cruel. "You think you can stop me? You're nothing, a maid bought for pennies." While they're priceless. Ruth lifted the pistol, aiming at him, voice cracking. "Not anymore." But before the trigger pulled, Eli and Noah stepped out from behind Maya, their sightless eyes glowing faint like silver. Noah's voice echoed, though soft, "Every lie has an end, Dad." Though men froze, flashlights flickering. Adam's smile faltered as shadows bent across the barn, as though the twins were pulling something unseen into shape. Eli's whisper cut through the dark. "We see you, Father, we see everything you've done." Adam staggered back, eyes wide for the first time, fear cracking his polished armor. The men shifted, uncertain. The lights flickered harder, like the air itself bent against them. Maya clutched Ruth's arm, whispering, "What are they doing?" Ruth's reply was almost reverent. "They're giving him back what he forced them to seethe." Barn filled with images, fire, riots, blood, faces of the powerful men at the mansion, visions of destruction, wars, greed, secrets too heavy to carry. Adam screamed, clutching his head as the visions poured into him, raw, unfiltered, his own hunger consuming him whole. The guards shouted, some dropped their guns, fleeing, others froze. Unable to move, the twins stood strong, their hands still locked, silver glow deepening. Eli's voice final. "You wanted our sight, now you cannot close your eyes." Vadam collapsed, writhing, his screams tearing through the barn, then fading to nothing but silence, his body still, eyes wide, seeing only horrors that would never end there. Men who remained fled into the night. Ruth lowered the pistol, her breath ragged. Maya dropped to her knees, pulling the twins into her arms, sobbing with relief. "It's over," she whispered. "It's finally over." But Eli shook his head gently. "No, not yet. Not until the world knows what he was doing." Outside the barn, the night was silent, too silent to waiting. Maya realized with a chill this wasn't the end. Not yet, it was only the beginning of the storm. Adam had tried to unleash, and the twins were the only ones who could stop it. The barn stood in eerie silence after Adam collapsed, his body trembling, his mouth muttering words no one could understand. Eli and Noah clung to Maya, their eyes dull silver, still glowing faintly. Ruth stood over Adam, her pistol lowered, her face streaked with rain and tearful. "Never recover," Ruth whispered. "His mind is broken. The visions will eat him alive until nothing remains." Maya's chest heaved. Part of her wanted to believe it was enough, that justice had been served, but deep inside, she knew Adam wasn't the only danger. The men at the mansion, the senators, the generals, the bankers, the ones who wanted prophecy, they wouldn't stop because Adam had fallen. They would come harder, stronger. The boys seemed to feel it too. Eli leaned into Maya's shoulder, his voice thin. "He's just one piece of the dark. Others will want us to know." His hand gripped tighter. "We have to choose what will be." Ruth crouched before them, her voice gentler than it had ever been. "You're not weapons, you're not tools, you're children. You deserve to live free, but if you hide, they'll keep hunting until they find you." Maya's eyes burned. She pulled them close, her voice steady with a strength she didn't know she had. "Then we won't hide, we'll make them see the truth." Ruth frowned. How Maya reached into her apron, pulling out the sketches, the journal, the blood-stained note, the proof left behind by Ruth, and now added to by her own eyes. "This is evidence. Adam kept records. His arrogance will be his undoing. We give this to the world, make his empire collapse." In front of everyone, the twins nodded slowly. Noah whispered, "If they see what he did, they'll never trust men like him again." Eli added, "And then maybe we can just be boys." The sound of sirens cut through the night, distant but closing. Ruth stiffened. "They're coming," he called them before we escaped. Maya rose, heart pounding. "Then let them come." She looked at Ruth, fire in her voice. "We're not running anymore." The barn doors burst open, beams of light cutting through, armed men storming inside, voices shouting. But this time, Maya didn't flinch. She stepped forward, journal raised high, her voice carrying, "Don't shoot. These children are witnesses. They've been tortured and used by Adam Reed and his circle. I have proof, all of it, every page, every word." The men hesitated, their eyes darting to Adam, sprawled on the floor, screaming at ghosts. Only he could see the glow in that boy's eyes. The pistol in Ruth's hand, the journal clutched tight. Maya's voice broke with fury. "You think you can Bury this, but the world will know the truth. One officer stepped forward, his face grim. He lowered his weapon quietly. Take them, he said, not to his men but to Maya. Go before the rest arrive. You don't know how deep this goes. He pressed a set of car keys into her hand. Run before they change their minds. Ruth grabbed Maya's arm, pulling her and the twins through a side door into the rain. The night swallowing them as the barn behind filled with chaos, shouts and confusion. They drove until dawn, through back roads, until the city lights rose pale. Against the horizon, Ruth finally pulled over, her hands shaking on the wheel. She turned to Maya, tears in her eyes. You saved them. You did what I couldn't. Maya touched her hand firmly. We saved them together. The twins stirred awake, curled against each other. Noah murmured, weak but hopeful. Are we safe? No. Maya stroked his hair. Yes, you are, but more than safe. You're free. No one owns you. Not your father, not his men, not anyone. Nilai's small smile broke through for the first time, real and unguarded. Can we see the sun again, Maya? Her throat tightened with tears. Yes, she whispered. This time no one will close the curtains. The car rolled forward toward the rising light, the mansion behind them nothing but shadows. Adam, broken, haunted by his own greed, his empire crumbling under the weight of truth. The boys leaned out the window, eyes wide as dawn washed over them, silver fading into clear, pure tanned. Maya knew the lesson would never leave her. Sometimes survival isn't just about running, it's about standing, it's about taking the truth, no matter how bloody and broken, and putting it in the light where no one can deny it, because in the end, that was the only way to kill the darkness. And as the sun rose on their faces for the first time, the twins finally saw what freedom really looked like. The end.